I saved Oliver when he was getting bullied. But he fell in love with his tormentor and ended up hating my guts for the rest of his life. If you hadn't stuck your nose where it didn't belong back then, he said, we would have gotten together ages ago. Well, he got his wish. I woke up on the same day they had him cornered in the alley. This time, I didn't get involved. What's the point of good grades? You're still a bastard with no one to raise you, right? Hey, Mr. Valedictorian, look at the camera. Come on, give us a smile, ha 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 ha. The arrogant, chaotic noise filled the air. Sophia was ordering her friends to drag Oliver deeper into the alley. Her long hair flowed as her bright, pretty face twisted with malice, looking down on Oliver, who was collapsed at her feet. Oliver was curled into a ball. The skin you could see was a mess of blue and purple bruises. He was soaked, and he reeked of a public toilet. The worst part was his face. Someone had used a Sharpie to write the word bastard across it in huge letters. I stood at the entrance to the alley, watching quietly for a moment. Sensing my gaze, Sophia took a drag from her cigarette and said sarcastically, "What's this? Can our dear Grace not stand to watch? Here to serve some justice?" Oliver looked up at the sound of her voice, his eyes meeting mine. They were wet, holding a glimmer of hope and pleading. I just smiled. It's nothing. You guys carry on. Then, I turned and walked away without a second thought. In my last life, I chose to walk into that alley and stop them. My family was richer than Sophia's, so she didn't dare cross me and had to back off. Oliver came from an orphanage. He was dirt poor and always looked down on. So, I used my family's company, Grant Enterprises, to sponsor him all the way through college. After graduation, by some coincidence, Oliver found his biological father, the CEO of the Sterling Corporation. The Sterling Corporation's wealth and influence dwarfed my family's. I never expected any reward for my help, never thought to get anything from his family. But I also never, ever imagined that the first thing Oliver would do after taking control of his family's company was to spare no effort in destroying mine. In the end, Grant Enterprises went bankrupt. My dad, overwhelmed with anger, had a sudden stroke and died. My mom, unable to handle one blow after another, chose to end her life by jumping from a building. In a daze, I ran to the Sterling Corporation, demanding an explanation from Oliver. I knew I had been good to him. Why did things have to end this way? But what I didn't expect was to see Sophia in his office, someone I hadn't seen in years. She had shed her old arrogance, looking at Oliver with a pitiful, innocent act. She said she was just young and dumb back then. The only reason she bullied Oliver was because she liked him and wanted to get his attention. She also claimed she had wanted to confess her feelings to him in our senior year of high school. But she said I threatened her, so she had to back off and bury her love deep down. After the SATs, they went to colleges on opposite sides of the country. After graduation, Sophia was rushed into a marriage arranged by her family. Their lives, she claimed, had just missed each other. It was only then that I learned the truth. Oliver had been secretly in love with Sophia since middle school. Every scar she left on him, he had traced with his fingertips in the lonely nights, fantasizing it was the touch of his beloved skin. When he saw me, his eyes were cold as ice. If you hadn't stuck your nose where it didn't belong back then, we would have been together ages ago. So, Grace. Tell me, shouldn't I get my revenge on you? It was pathetic. I laughed at Oliver for being low enough to fall for his bully. And I laughed at myself for being such a poor judge of character that I brought ruin to my own family. After leaving the Sterling building, I wandered the streets in a fog. When a truck came barreling toward me, I couldn't get out of the way. Or maybe, I just didn't want to. But I never expected to wake up again, back in my senior year of high school, back in that same alley where my life first crossed with Oliver's. Fate had given me another chance to choose. This time, I wouldn't step into that dark, dead-end alley. I'd let Oliver rot in there all by himself. He deserved every bit of suffering he got. For the next several days, Oliver came to class covered in new bruises. Without me to stop her, Sophia's cruelty knew no bounds. All of Oliver's books were cut to shreds and thrown in the trash. His desk was stuffed with garbage from the bathroom trash cans. They even wrote insults all over his desk and clothes. He endured it silently for a long time, but finally, he couldn't take it anymore and came to me. "Class president, you have to help me. If this keeps up, they're actually going to kill me." He seemed to use all his courage to say it, his face flushing red. Oliver had a lot of pride. He never showed weakness in front of others. In my past life, I helped him, and he never once said thank you. But now he was gracing me with his plea for help. Looks like Sophia and her crew were really laying into him. I watched him, taking my time. "This is something you should take to the homeroom teacher. I'm just a student. What can I do to help you?" Oliver's head sank even lower. His hands at his sides clenched into tight fists. He squeezed, then relaxed them. "The teacher won't do anything." His voice was barely a whisper. "Sophia's family is rich, and I'm just a. Why would he risk offending her for me?" At least he saw things clearly. We went to a private school where most of the students were either rich or well-connected. Scholarship students like Oliver, poor but brilliant, were a tiny minority. Our homeroom teacher was a total snob who loved to suck up to the rich kids and step on everyone else. That's why Sophia could act so brazenly. She knew the teacher wouldn't dare stand up for Oliver and risk getting on her bad side. On the other hand, I, the class president, had a reputation for standing up for what's right and often defended the poorer students. That's why Oliver came to me. I sneered inwardly. Last time, I offered my help without being asked. Not only did I get nothing for it, but I earned Oliver's hatred. This time, he's the one coming to me for help. What a glutton for punishment. I looked at Oliver and said slowly, "So what do you want me to do? Use my connections to get Sophia expelled?" Oliver froze for a second, glancing up at me instinctively. A strange, conflicted look crossed his face. I didn't mean that." Oliver said awkwardly, "I don't think Sophia is a bad person at heart. Someone must have told her something to make her misunderstand me. If I can just clear the air with her, maybe she'll stop targeting me." I stared at him, my mind reeling with cold laughter. I never would have guessed. So, Oliver was already in love with Sophia at this point. I was genuinely curious, though. Why did he like her? He couldn't have been a natural-born masochist, could he? I pushed him deliberately. "How do you know Sophia isn't a bad person? Do you know her that well?" When I mentioned Sophia's name, a faint smile unconsciously appeared on Oliver's bruised and swollen face. When school first started, I was like everyone else. I thought she was just a good-for-nothing delinquent. Oliver's eyes glazed over with nostalgia. Then one day, I saw her feeding sausages to the stray cats on the street. That's when I realized she just acts tough in front of people. Deep down, she's actually really soft and kind. I get it. She smokes, drinks, and bullies people, but she feeds sausages to stray cats. Therefore, she's a kind, good girl. Never mind that the salt and additives in sausages are terrible for cats and do way more harm than good. That little detail didn't stop Oliver from being completely captivated by her kindness and falling for her. Finally, one of life's great mysteries was solved. But I didn't feel relieved, just a sense of absurdity. To think that in my past life, I was destroyed by this train wreck of a couple. Beyond the rage, I felt an overwhelming sense of injustice. Since they were such a match made in heaven, I decided I would do my best to bring these two lovebirds together. A small smile played on my lips, my eyes dark. My voice was like a whirlpool, luring him in. I agree, I don't think Sophia is a bad person either. You two probably just have some misunderstanding you need to clear up. Tell you what, we're getting new seating assignments next week. I'll have a word with the homeroom teacher. I'll get you two to be deskmates so you can have some time to build your relationship." When the new seating chart came out, Sophia threw a fit right on the spot. "Who wants to sit next to this fucking orphan? He stinks. God knows the last time he took a shower. To be fair, Oliver was actually a clean person. But as soon as he got to school every day, he'd get dragged to the bathroom for a baptism by Sophia's crew. Over time, a foul smell just clung to him. The homeroom teacher looked at Sophia, a little sheepishly. Sophia, you were last in the grade on the last exam. Oliver was second in the grade. I'm having you sit together so Oliver can help you out. You can study together and both improve. Sophia still wasn't having it. She pouted. Then who's first in the grade? Can't you just put me with them? A small smile touched my lips as I looked at her and said slowly. That would be me. What's the matter, you want to be my desk mate? Sophia's expression immediately froze. We had never gotten along. She was arrogant and thought she was untouchable. But unfortunately for her, I beat her in every category: looks, family background, and grades. I had also stood up to her a few times to defend other students. She despised me, but she was also a little afraid of me. After hearing I was number one, Sophia shut up immediately. She reluctantly sat down next to Oliver. As she did, she made sure to shoot him a venomous glare. I, however, noticed the corner of Oliver's mouth twitching upwards uncontrollably, his fingertips trembling slightly with excitement. Sophia, I'm looking forward to working with you, he said quietly. Sophia just rolled her eyes dramatically. She couldn't do much during class, but the second school was out, she slapped him across the face. Fuck, you're such bad luck. Just sitting next to you makes me feel like I'm gonna start stinking too. The more Sophia thought about it, the angrier she got, and she slapped him a dozen more times. Are you a masochist or something, huh? Who the fuck told you to get second place in the grade? Think you're hot shit now, don't you? She was just looking for any excuse to pick on him. I slowly packed my things, watching them out of the corner of my eye. After a moment, probably because her hand was getting tired, Sophia stopped. Oliver quickly said, actually, the teacher was right. I can tutor you. Sophia scoffed. For a rich girl like her, grades didn't matter. Her family's money was enough to keep her comfortable for life. Just as she was about to retort, Oliver added, and I can do all your homework for you. A satisfied smile finally spread across Sophia's face. Well, it's about time you made yourself useful. And just like that, Oliver became Sophia's loyal lapdog. Besides doing her homework and helping her cheat on tests, Sophia also made him run errands for her constantly. Oliver, however, seemed to enjoy it. Maybe it was because his attitude was so compliant, or maybe Sophia just got bored and wanted a new toy. Whatever the reason, she started bullying him less frequently. At least the daily baptisms in the toilet stopped. And slowly, a smile started to appear on Oliver's face. Seeing those two happy was more painful than death for me. I decided to give them another push. So, I made sure Sophia overheard me praising Oliver. You know, he's actually pretty handsome. And he's smart, and has a good personality. I looked down, feigning shyness. I think he'd make a really good boyfriend. Sophia watched me, a thoughtful look on her face. A flash of malice crossed her eyes. Soon, to everyone's surprise, Sophia's attitude toward Oliver did a complete 180. Not only did she stop all the bullying, but she started speaking to him in a gentle, sweet voice. She even started bringing him breakfast every day. Everyone was confused by her sudden change. Only I knew the reason. Sophia had always been in my shadow, and she both hated and feared me. Now, here was a way for her to finally one-up me, by stealing the guy I liked. How could she possibly pass up that chance? Their relationship quickly heated up. Finally, one day, Oliver sent me a message. Grace, Sophia confessed to me. She said she's actually liked me this whole time. All that stuff she did before was just to get my attention. Oliver and I weren't actually that close. But he was desperate to share his incredible news, and I was the only person in class who would even talk to him. So he excitedly sent me a bunch of screenshots of their chat history. I told you she wasn't a bad person, that she's a really sweet girl. Grace, thank you for helping get us seated together. I never thought she liked me back this whole time. I scrolled past his messages with a cold sneer. And then I switched over to another group chat. A group chat Sophia had created. Everyone in the class was in it, except for Oliver. The group's photo album was filled with chat screenshots. They were identical to the ones Oliver had just sent me. Except, Sophia wasn't sharing them out of joy. In the chat, she was mocking him relentlessly. What a fucking simp. I snap my fingers and he comes running with his tail wagging. He should take a look in the mirror. What a loser, thinking he has a shot with me. I told him I only bullied him because I liked him. And the idiot actually believed it, Raffle. How can someone be this stupid? And he's supposed to be a genius. Every day, Sophia would share the sweet nothings Oliver sent her in the group chat. But she always did it with a mocking tone. All right everyone, gather round, the clown's performing again. Oliver had become a laughingstock to everyone without even knowing it. He was completely lost in his beautiful dream. To maintain my persona, I deliberately defended Oliver in the group chat. Sophia, don't you think you're going too far? Oliver really likes you. Why are you tricking him like this? Seeing me come to his defense only made Sophia happier. She replied sarcastically. Ah, look at our dear Grace, her heart is breaking. But what can I say? That's just how I am. When I see a pathetic loser, I can't help but mess with his feelings. If you've got the guts, why don't you try and steal him away from me? After that, she started tormenting Oliver even more. I pretended to be heartbroken. Oliver's grades used to be so good. It's all because of you that he's been slipping so much lately. So Sophia started clinging to Oliver even more, refusing to leave him alone. She made him hang out with her all day, constantly talking to him during class. Before long, Oliver's rank dropped out of the top 100 in our grade. Again, I feigned indignation. Oliver is already so poor, he has to work part-time after school just to get by. And you, Sophia, are always making him buy you gifts. You're really going too far. So Sophia started demanding Oliver buy her designer bags every day. Oliver couldn't bear to disappoint his girlfriend. He gritted his teeth and picked up 2 more part-time jobs. To save even more money, he started eating only 1 meal a day. Soon, he was so thin and frail he looked like a ghost. He even fainted in public a few times from malnutrition. Every time I showed concern, it just became more fuel for Sophia to torture Oliver. More than half of our senior year passed. Oliver looked pale, weak, and dazed. His once prized grades had plummeted to below 300th in the class. With the SATs just around the corner, I decided it was time for the final blow. I asked to meet with Sophia alone. For the first time, I, who had always acted so proud and aloof, spoke to her in a pleading tone. I said, Sophia, I'm begging you, please stop distracting Oliver. For a poor student like him, the SATs might be his only chance to change his life. If you keep messing with him like this, you're really going to ruin him. This was the first time I had ever humbled myself before Sophia. The look on her face was pure, smug satisfaction. I get it. A malicious grin spread across Sophia's face. I'll be extra good to him from now on. And so, after the SATs were over, I heard the news. So he could go to the same college as Sophia, Oliver had left an entire section of the test blank. My grades were already excellent. Plus, this was my second time taking the college entrance exams. When the results came out, I was, unsurprisingly, in the top 10 in the state. I could take my pick of any school or major in the country. I also checked up on Oliver and Sophia's situation. Neither of them could get into a real university. The best they could hope for was a community college. However, LMAO, that idiot. I told him I didn't want a long-distance relationship, so he should score lower to get into the same college as me. And he actually did it. My family already arranged for me to study abroad. Who wants to go to some crappy community college with him? In the group chat, Sophia was laughing her head off. I've been playing this game long enough, it's time to end it. Everyone, day after tomorrow I'm meeting up with him to tell him the truth in person. I'll bring a spy cam. I'll give you all a live stream of the clown having a complete meltdown. She even announced the time and place. Tomorrow, at noon, at the school gym. Without hesitation, I sent a message to Oliver first. Are you free? Let's meet tonight. Afraid he would refuse, I added another line. It's about Sophia. Oliver replied instantly. Okay. The show was finally reaching its climax. Oliver stood about 30 feet away from me. Ever since he got together with Sophia, he had been a model boyfriend, keeping his distance from all other girls. Even though Sophia couldn't have cared less. I looked at him, my face a mask of heartbreak. I've wanted to tell you this for a long time. But seeing how much you love Sophia, and how happy you were, I just couldn't bring myself to say it. I thought with your devotion, you could melt even a heart of stone. But I never imagined she would. Enough. Oliver cut me off, annoyed. The look he gave me was tinged with disgust. If you asked me here today just to talk trash about Sophia, he said. Then you'll have to excuse me. Such a perfect, devoted boyfriend. I laughed coldly to myself. I wonder if he'll still be so devoted after he sees those group chat screenshots. That's right. I had saved screenshots and screen recordings of everything Sophia had said in that chat. I had even recorded the audio of our private meeting. All for this very moment. In my last life, Oliver destroyed my family for his so-called love. This time, I was going to make him watch with his own eyes as that fake, ugly love shattered into pieces. What a fucking simp. I snap my fingers and he comes running with his tail wagging. He should take a look in the mirror. What a loser, thinking he has a shot with me. I told him I only bullied him because I liked him. And the idiot actually believed it. How can someone be this stupid? And he's supposed to be a genius. But what can I say? That's just how I am. When I see a pathetic loser, I can't help but mess with his feelings. The humiliation was laid bare in every word. With every message he read, Oliver's face grew paler, and his body trembled like a leaf in the wind. At first, Oliver tried to put on a brave face. No way, this is all fake. You're just trying to drive a wedge between us. But by the end, his eyes were bloodshot, his hands clenched into fists so tight his entire face was twitching. That bitch, that bitch. She lied to me, that bitch, I'm going to kill her. I timed it perfectly, playing the audio recording for him and saying with false sympathy. I tried to convince her to stop before the SATs. But I never thought she'd turn around and trick you into tanking the test. Sigh, your grades used to be so good, you could have gotten into any top-tier school. Now you can only go to a community college. And look at her, she's off to a university abroad. She's ruined your entire life. In reality, even if Oliver couldn't get into a good college, he would still meet his biological father in a few years and live a life of luxury. But right now, I spared no effort in exaggerating the importance of the SATs. I kept drilling it into his head that his life was ruined by Sophia, that he was destined to live in the gutter forever. The hatred in Oliver's eyes grew deeper and more intense. Finally, I gave him one last friendly reminder. Sophia said she wants to meet with you tomorrow. She probably wants to humiliate you in public one last time. Don't you go soft on her again and let her trick you. The next day at noon, just as promised, Sophia started her live stream. Oliver walked towards her from a distance. Sophia whispered excitedly, "All right everyone, the show's about to start. Let's see what this simp is gonna do." Only I noticed that as Oliver approached, he kept one hand in his pocket the entire time. His face was dark, his eyes webbed with blood vessels. His once handsome face now looked utterly monstrous. Sophia, completely oblivious, was still ordering him around. Didn't I tell you that for dates, you're supposed to be here an hour early? You dare to make me wait, Oliver? Are you looking for another beating? Oliver stared straight at her and suddenly let out a sinister laugh. Okay, I get it. I won't be late again. Sophia shot him a look of contempt and mockery. A malicious smile spread across her lips. There won't be a again. Oliver, I'm going abroad to study. As for you, with those scores, you'll be lucky to get into a technical school. Huh, I only called you here today to tell you that we're over. Oliver kept staring at her, his expression unchanged. He didn't seem surprised or angry by her words at all. Why? He asked in a low voice. You were the one who told me to score lower so we could go to the same school. Sophia finally burst out laughing. She laughed for a full 3 minutes, her face turning red. Ha ha ha, Oliver, you are the dumbest idiot I have ever met. Why? You're asking me why? Ha 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 ha. Sophia looked up at Oliver and said, word by word. Because I never liked you, obviously. The whole time, I was just playing with you. Oliver, did you really think someone could ever love an orphan like you? Even your own parents thought you were bad luck and threw you away. Why don't you just go die? Sophia's words were daggers, each one aimed straight at his heart. Hearing them filled me with a sense of satisfaction. She was so wrapped up in her tirade that she didn't notice Oliver's expression growing more and more terrifying. You have no idea how much you disgust me, she continued. Just looking at your pathetic, simpering face makes me want to puke. If it wasn't so fun watching you suffer, I never would have lowered myself to be your girlfriend. And you're really stupid enough to have actually listened to me. Throwing away your future like that, ha ha ha. She laughed without a care in the world. Completely missing the fact that Oliver's eyes were so red they looked like they were about to bleed. Someone in the class group chat noticed something was wrong and sent a message to warn Sophia. But it was too late. It all happened in an instant. You bitch. Bitch. You ruined me. Go to hell. I'm going to kill you. You bitch. Kill you. Oliver screamed like a madman. He had a fruit knife in his hand, and he plunged it into Sophia's body again and again without mercy. Flesh and blood went flying. She screamed, trying to run away. But Oliver pursued her like a demon hunting a soul. Once, twice, 3 times. He stabbed her a total of 17 times. Sophia collapsed in a pool of her own blood. Oliver, as if his soul had been ripped out, fell heavily to the ground. He sat there, drenched in the blood of the woman he loved. Sophia didn't die. The moment Oliver started his attack, someone in the class group chat called the police. She was incredibly lucky. Somehow, all 17 stab wounds missed her vital organs. But even though Sophia's life was saved, multiple organs were damaged. She would spend the rest of her life hooked up to machines in a hospital bed. It was practically a death sentence. As for Oliver, the entire attack was perfectly recorded by the spy cam Sophia brought. He was caught red-handed and arrested on the spot. I heard Sophia's family hated him with a vengeance. They paid off people in the jail to make his life a living hell. Less than 24 hours after his arrest, Oliver had an accident that left him with a broken leg and a blind eye. Sophia's family still wasn't satisfied. They hired the best lawyers in the country to make sure he got the longest possible sentence. I thought that would be enough to ensure Oliver could never recover. But I was wrong. 2 days later, I heard the news. Sophia's family had agreed to an out-of-court settlement with Oliver. He was released. When I got this news, I was stunned for a long moment. I never expected the family to agree to a settlement. Besides, this was attempted murder. Even if the victim's family doesn't press charges, it's normally impossible to be released immediately. Unless. I thought back to my previous life, to Oliver's biological father, the CEO of the Sterling Corporation. The story was that they had been reunited by pure chance. After graduation, Oliver got a job at a subsidiary of Sterling Corp. He looked so much like his father in his youth that Mr. Sterling took notice. He had someone investigate. And that's how he discovered Oliver was his biological son. According to my plan, Oliver should have been in prison for at least 8 or 10 years. When he got out, with only a high school education and a criminal record, a major company like Sterling Corp would never have hired him. That would have completely cut off his path to reuniting with his father and changing his fate. However, was their reunion really a pure coincidence? Thinking about it more carefully, in my last life, even though Oliver was a heartless bastard, his all-out attack on my family's company, just because of a few words from Sophia, seemed a bit of an overreaction. Was destroying my family's business really just an act of personal revenge? From what I knew, Sterling Corp had been planning to expand into the renewable energy sector at that time. And my family's company just happened to be a leader in that industry. If his father, Mr. Sterling, had ordered or condoned Oliver's actions for competitive business reasons, wouldn't that make a lot more sense? I secretly had someone investigate Oliver's father. It didn't actually take much effort. After all, for a business tycoon like him, stories of his youth were all over the internet. I had just been so focused on my hatred for Oliver that I'd forgotten about the real power behind him. The story of Mr. Sterling's rise could be summed up in one sentence. A poor boy married into a rich girl's family and climbed his way up from a dependent son-in-law to a billionaire. Mr. Sterling's first wife, a woman from the Tang family, came from a powerful political dynasty. They had a daughter named Tessa Tang. It's worth noting that Tessa was only 3 months older than Oliver. When Mrs. Tang was 3 months pregnant, Mr. Sterling had an affair. The other woman tried to use her pregnancy to secure her position, but she didn't realize that in the face of the Tang family's power, Mr. Sterling was nothing more than a lapdog. He decisively cut off all contact with his mistress. Seeing that her plan had failed, the mistress gave birth to Oliver and promptly abandoned him at an orphanage. And according to the private investigator's report, Mr. Sterling had actually discovered Oliver was his son 3 years ago but was too afraid of the Tang family's power to acknowledge him. It was only now, when his biological son had committed a crime and was facing prison time, that he finally decided to act. To be able to force the family into a settlement, Mr. Sterling must have pulled a lot of strings and used a lot of connections. Could he really make such a big move without Mrs. Tang finding out? As soon as I voiced my doubt, the PI helpfully added, Mrs. Tang was recently diagnosed with cancer. She doesn't have much time left. Their daughter, Tessa, is studying abroad. She just got the news about her mother's illness and is on her way back to the country now. I see. A contemptuous sneer crossed my face. I should have known. How could a selfish, cold-hearted man like Mr. Sterling risk exposing his affair to save his illegitimate son? It was because his wife was dying and his daughter was far away. A cheater is a cheater. He really knows how to weigh his options. He and Oliver really were father and son, both ungrateful backstabbers. Bad genes really do get passed down. But this time, I wasn't going to let them get away with it. Find out which flight Mississippi Tang is on. A slow smile spread across my face. I'm going to go pick her up from the airport. In the airport coffee shop, Tessa Tang frowned at me. Her eyes were sharp, filled with scrutiny and caution. I don't like to beat around the bush, she said coolly. You have 3 minutes. Say what you need to say. Perfect. She was direct, so there was no need for me to play games. I took a photo of Oliver out of my bag. When she saw the face that was an 80% match for her own father, Tessa froze for a second. This is a classmate of mine. His name is Oliver. He's an orphan. Tessa took the photo, rubbing it gently between her fingers. An orphan? She repeated softly. That's right. An orphan with no parents, no power, and no connections. I took a light sip of my coffee and continued slowly. A few days ago, he was involved in a relationship dispute and attempted to murder someone. The victim's family is quite powerful. But strangely, they chose to settle out of court. Oliver was released without any charges. Mississippi Tang, what do you make of that? Tessa's face turned grim, her eyes glinting with a dangerous light. Getting released after an attempted murder, someone must have powerful connections. The murderous intent in Tessa's eyes was impossible to hide. She clearly understood what I was implying. It's so refreshing to talk to smart people. I smiled slightly. So, Mississippi Tang, what do you plan to do? Tessa let out a cold laugh. Scum like that belongs in a prison cell forever, not out here harming people. As for the person behind him, a heartless, ungrateful bastard. Is there any reason to show mercy? I raised an eyebrow slightly. I had thought that, no matter what, Mr. Sterling was still her biological father. She might have hesitated. But Tessa's decisiveness at that moment was far beyond my expectations. I suddenly remembered my past life. Back then, I had never met Tessa Tang. I only knew that Oliver had a half-sister who supposedly had a mental illness and was locked away in a sanatorium. That's how he was able to inherit the entire Sterling Corporation. But looking at the Tessa in front of me now, she was poised, ruthless, and decisive. She didn't seem like someone with a mental illness at all. It seems that in the corners of my past life that I never saw, some other interesting things must have happened. But that was all in the past. This time, everything would be different. A week later. First, someone reported the Sterling Corporation for tax evasion. Then, a flood of anonymous tips and reports followed. I discreetly asked my dad about it. He told me in a hushed, serious tone that Mr. Sterling had offended someone powerful up top, and they were coming for him. The Sterling Corporation was going to be skinned alive, if not destroyed completely. It wasn't hard to guess who was behind the attack on Mr. Sterling. He might have been wealthy, but as they say, you don't fight City Hall. The Tang family was a political dynasty, full of high-ranking officials. Bringing him down was just a matter of a few phone calls. Before long, Mr. Sterling was in jail, facing multiple charges of financial crimes. And Tessa took over the entire Sterling Corporation. With the big fish down, the small fry obviously couldn't get away. I heard that Sophia's family had changed their minds and were appealing the case again. They hired the best lawyers in the country, determined to get Oliver the heaviest sentence possible. However, when the trial date came, Oliver was a no-show. No one knew where he was hiding. After my father bailed him out, he put him up in a villa in the suburbs. But when I sent people over, he was already gone. He's probably on the run all over the city now. If you hear anything about him, contact me immediately. Reading the message from Tessa, I fell into deep thought. She probably never dreamed that Oliver was, at this very moment, in my room. To be honest, this was also beyond my expectations. The moment I walked through my door, a dark figure lunged out. A hand clamped over my mouth, and my arms and legs were pinned down. Grace, it's me, Oliver. I blinked, trying to process the situation. Oliver let go of me and collapsed onto my bed. After so many days, I finally got a good look at his current state. He was as thin as a rail, his body covered in wounds that hadn't healed. His right leg was shorter than his left. His left eye socket was a dark, empty hole, the eye had been gouged out. He reeked of stale sweat and grime, like he hadn't showered in weeks. He was the very picture of a broken, desperate stray. He looked at me, his face a mask of defeat and pleading. Grace, you're all I have now. You're the only one who can help me. I fought back a laugh and asked, Oliver, what are you talking about? Oliver stared at me intently. These past few days, I had a dream. I dreamed that back when Sophia was bullying me, you were the one who stopped her. Later, you even sponsored me through college. And then I reunited with my dad, inherited the Sterling Corporation. I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. So, Oliver had also regained his memories of our past life. How wonderful. At least this way, when he goes to hell, he can't claim he was an innocent victim. So? I asked deliberately. In that dream, after you made it big, did you ever repay me for my kindness? Oliver's gaze flickered away for a second. He said, looking guilty, "That's not important, Grace. What's important is that I finally know who truly loves me. Whether it was in the past, in the dream or in reality, you were always the one who was best to me." Oliver looked at me with deep affection and said emotionally, "Grace, I know you've had a crush on me this whole time, right? You were the only one in class willing to talk to me. And when that bitch Sophia was tricking me, you were the one who kept trying to help me." He paused, then said as if he'd made a huge decision, "If you can find a way to get me out of this, I can be your boyfriend." What kind of pathetic person does he think I am? Oliver's disgusting nature truly exceeded my imagination. After regaining his memories, knowing Sophia's true colors, knowing he had wronged me and destroyed my parents, he still had the gall to say something so shameless. Showing even a shred of mercy to this scum would mean I was out of my mind. On the surface, I played along with him. When he wasn't paying attention, I secretly called the police. As he was being dragged into the police car, Oliver's face was a picture of disbelief. He was still making a last-ditch effort. "Grace, save me. Just tell them you were the one who attacked Sophia. After you get out of prison, I'll marry you, okay?" I met his panicked gaze and said coldly, "In the last life and in this one, I have never loved you. In my last life, I chose to help you because I have a sense of justice. And in this life, I chose to stand by and do nothing because you don't deserve it." Then, I leaned in close to his ear and whispered, "Doesn't it strike you as odd? Why, in this life, did Sophia suddenly decide to play a love game with you? And why is your father's corporation suddenly on the verge of bankruptcy?" He stared at me, his face filled with utter disbelief. "It was you. You bitch, you did this to me on purpose." He struggled, trying to lunge at me. But the police immediately restrained him and pushed him into the car. This time, he would never have a chance to get back up. Sophia's family, me, Tessa. We would all make sure his time in prison was comfortable and pleasant. My revenge was finally complete. And I could finally walk out of that dark, sunless alley and embrace my new life.